Hi, and welcome to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. Today we're going to talk about customer service. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. My name is Kale Houser. Thank you for joining me for this Monday edition of the Kale Houser Leadership Secrets podcast. I hope you had a fantastic weekend and got to do whatever it is that you do, whether it be work on your business if you're that kind of startup promo entrepreneur type of position, or really take a step back, relax, let other people handle it, wherever you're at in your journey of running and being a leader in your business. I will say I had a mixed bag of a weekend myself. I had a little bit of an incident, which is the subject matter of this podcast today. We're going to talk about a little bit customer service. And if you've read the description of this episode, a little bit in how that lends to the reputation of your company as a whole, if you have customer service representatives specifically. But if you don't, you still have an image, whatever it is, I'm lacking the term right now, but a projection that you have of your company to your community, to your clients, to your customers, to your vendors, all those people that interact in one way or another with your company. And I had this interaction. So we were actually at the pool with my family, and I was just hanging out and taking a break in the shade and sitting there on my phone. And I went to set it down on my side, and it slipped out of my hand. And even though it fell the approximate, 12 inches, 13, 14 inches from the edge of the lounge chair that I was on to the ground, it of course hit exactly perfect and just completely spidered the whole thing. But not to worry, I've got the insurance that they upsold me on for my phone, right? Because phones are like stupid expensive now. So it's worth I don't know what it is, like $9 or something for the insurance. But of course there's a deductible. So I get on, I go through Google Fi. Which is a great service. Like, I've got really no complaints about the service itself. The customer service aspect has been kind of hit and miss, but that's a little bit to be expected of any sort of big company because they've got probably thousands of customer service representatives that handle all kinds of complaints and inquiries and things of that nature. So it's hard to have that consistency on that level. So I got up and I looked at my plan and all that kind of stuff, and it said, okay, yep, for the $29 deductible, covered everything, like all the accidental damage, the cracked screens and things of that nature. I'm like, sweet. And I've had a claim with them before through it for a different phone, and it's pretty straightforward. Like they contract through a local fix-it company, and it gets taken care of, usually within a couple days. No big deal. Because the phone was still working. It's just, all cracked and chipped and things. But then there's also another option for if it has damage plus mechanical, essentially breakdown, like the whole thing just doesn't work anymore. They can't just swap out a screen or something of that nature. Then that was $150. I'm like, well, that's definitely not the case because it's still working and we can charge and talk on it and all that type of thing. It's purely cosmetic. So I start a chat because that's usually the quickest way, right? And the easiest because everything's written out. Start a chat with this guy. And I'll try not to make this a long conversation because I ended up being on with this not very intelligent person for over an hour in the chat before in the middle of it, I actually called and talked to somebody, which I guess that's my big lesson learned is forget the chat from now on and just go straight to where you can talk to somebody. Because he was essentially telling me, nope, you can't get it repaired. You only can do replacement, which is $150. I'm like, you're crazy. I've literally got 3 of your contract service centers that you work with within 20 miles of me. But he was going and he was stuck. And he even said, and I clarified with him, like he was stuck on the area code of my phone number, which who lives, the vast majority, I would argue, of people that have cell phones probably don't live in the same area code of where that cell phone is. Very few people do, and especially not me. Like, I haven't lived in the area code of my cell phone for decades, really. And I kept going like, hey, you keep saying area code. Like, I don't live in that area code. And I even told him, like, I will go to this. Here's the address of this fix-it place. This is my zip code of where I'm at. And it just wasn't connecting. And of course, when I got on the phone with this other representative, I'm like, hey, here's the story. Here's the deal. This is where I live. I understand my area code's not where I live. It's not a big deal. It's a cell phone. He's like, yeah, you've literally got 3 things, 3 of the repair centers, and boom, 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 here you go. Boom, done. And it was done in, probably less than 15 minutes on the phone. But it just got me thinking about, certainly this is Google, right? One of the largest companies on the planet. And they can afford the little bit of bad press because ultimately it doesn't matter. Like anyone can afford bad press when you've got enough customers and revenue and clientele to get you through that. But not everybody can. You may be in a position to where you've had to hire a quick hire, and you throw them into the fire, and they're doing their thing and they're interacting with your customers. But you have to understand that representative, for good or bad, is representing you as the leader of your company, as the owner of your company, as your company. That's the face they're putting forth to the marketplace. And in my experience with this Google, I was like, man, I'm so sick of this. I'm ready to be done if this is the level of service. He was clearly in the wrong, and it was like nothing I could do, as patient as I was being and trying to give him the facts and trying to like clarify, like, no, it's not based off of the area code of my phone number. It should be going off of my zip code of where I'm located, right? Even if I were traveling, this shouldn't be an issue. I would say, hey, I'm in Texas. Here's the zip code. Are there any repair centers that I can go get this taken care of, right? They would never say, no, we can't do that because, the area code of your phone number is this, and this is the only place that you get service at. Like, that's not in their agreement. It wasn't on their website. But it goes beyond that to the point of how are you training the people that interact with the public at large, with your industry, with your marketplace, with your vendors. Whether, that could just be your sales team. That could be your front desk person that answers the phone primarily. If you have legit customer service people, client relations type people, complaint department, all those various stages that have the opportunity to interact with the public at large and your clients and vendors and all those types of people, is what is building your reputation. So it may not matter that you yourself are very customer service oriented, right? The customer is always right. I will do whatever I can to make this right and fix it, no matter what the interpretation of the regulations and laws and all those things are. But if your team is not bought on to that, same as you, and it may not be that. You may have a hard line like, nope, this is it. We offer a 90-day warranty, and on day 91, if there's a problem, too bad, so sad, that's our hard line. Whatever that is for you, that's something that you have to decide for your business and your market. But I'm saying if you have not communicated that to your team, if you have not gotten them on board with that, then they're going to be putting out a different message to the public. And this was certainly the case with this one-off customer service representative that I was dealing with in the chat. He was doing absolutely nothing, because I was even asking him, like, please explain to me why I do not qualify to get my phone replaced or repaired, that you have to charge me the $129 when it clearly states on your website that I have these two options, right? And he just wouldn't do it. And it was basically, and I wish I could, read the entire transcript to you, but it was essentially like, you just got the impression he just didn't know. He had no clue, probably due to a lack of training, certainly due to a lack of whatever the case. Maybe it was his first day being on the chat boards with actual real customers and he froze up, right? But these were all failures of his supervision, because I even asked at several points, I'm like, is there anyone else I can talk to that knows what they're talking about, that can explain this to me? And he refused to do that. He refused, which led me to making the phone call. But getting back to your reputation and how it's formed in the marketplace by your people. And the critical crux of this whole thing, the crux of this whole thing is it's your responsibility to train them. Or it's your responsibility to impart on whoever is training them the importance of this. And understand that there are always left and right boundaries to those interactions with the public, right? You can't give away the shop for free. Think about going into a car dealership. There's left and right. There's a minimum price, no matter how much you threaten to walk out, that they will not sell you the car for any less than this. That's just the reality of doing business. They've got, overheads and salaries and commissions to pay, all those types of things. But there's always room in there of how they interact with the customer, and the car industry is such a perfect example, because you can have a different experience at every different dealership, even of the same manufacturer. Like a Ford dealership over here is slightly different than the one here versus here, just by nature of whoever owns and runs that and the type of customer experience they're trying to generate as part of their dealership and doing business with their dealership. And it's no different with any sort of business, right? Because there are essentially no one-off businesses. You may think you're special, but there's a duplication of you in another state, in another county, in another city, across the street. And the defining and differing factor of that is how you present yourself to the public, your reputation. Why do people go to, one restaurant, a corner restaurant, for a family lunch versus another? When they both serve burgers and wings, and the beer's cold, like it's the atmosphere and it's the customer experience. And this is just an extension of that. And I want you to pull back and think through that process of how am I setting up the people that I have as my frontline interacting with clients, customers, vendors, all those types of people in your industry. How are you setting them up for success? And do they know what they can and cannot do to make that customer satisfaction a thing, to make it a priority? And if you don't have that, if you don't have it written down, if you don't have it as part of your training program, if you don't have it as part of your culture, and it's part of your management hierarchy through all levels, you're just setting your team and your company up for failure, right? Because it creates confusion. If your frontline customer service representative doesn't know when, by the cues that the customer is giving off, that, man, they're super pissed and I need to get somebody else involved because it's now become personal about them thinking I can't help them, then it's just setting everything up for failure, and it's a lose-lose type of situation. So I wanted to share that with you a little bit tonight, as far as how you train your people, because 100% this poor guy, I got the impression by his name that he was a foreigner, this very non-American type name, and I just kind of felt for him, like I was getting legitimately kind of mad and super pissed off, but on the other side I'm like, I can totally relate. Like, this isn't this guy's fault. He's probably a nice guy, but he has this complete lack of training to recognize, like, there was some step in his process that he missed that I was trying to get him to go back to, but he just couldn't figure that part out, and it was creating this frustration for both of us. So fortunately I got on the phone and got somebody that had done this before. This wasn't their first rodeo, because calling for a warranty on a cracked phone probably is not the first time that's ever happened. I'm not the first one to ever do that. So I certainly went into it with an expectation of like, yep, here's what happened. This sucks. Yeah, I'll pay the deductible. Boom, let's get this set up and taken care of. And now you've got a very happy customer that, is happy to pay the deductible because that's what we agreed on to start with. Anyway, I can go on and on and on about that. Hey, I hope you guys are having a great week. Hopefully, if you're listening to this on Monday when it's released, have a fantastic week. Think about your customer experience as they come into your store, into your website, into your world, whatever that looks like for your business. Think about it from their perspective and what your people that are interacting with them. If that's you, awesome. If that's your partner, your wife, your kids, random stranger you hired off the street, how are they doing to contribute to that customer experience, and hopefully in a positive? And if it's not in a positive and you are getting those feedback from the customers, they're storming out or they're getting irate, take the time and effort to really analyze that and think about, like, okay, are they unreasonably mad, like the typical, we've all seen those, people just screaming at baristas for whatever random reasons? Or is this a legit matter of there's some failure in your customer service experience and what some expectation that's not being met that should be getting met, right? And sometimes it's in the middle somewhere, and that's your job to determine and explain clearly to your people where to fall on that line, and being willing to either let customers walk away and lose that clientele versus maybe make a few sacrifices on your end to keep that clientele. But that's something only really you can decide. All right, everybody, have a fantastic afternoon, no matter where you're at in the world. Bye.